Today we will be talking about various medical factors within aviation. That meaning how various medical conditions affect you in aviation and how you can go about getting what we refer to as your medical certificate. Your medical certificate is a clearance to fly. In essence, it's a doctor specially appointed by the Federal Aviation Administration who will examine you much like a normal sports physical or a work physical or just a kind of checkup to make sure that you are medically sound to fly. There are three different types of medical certificates. The first one is a third-class medical. A third-class medical is the kind of medical certificate that you need to exercise the privileges of a private pilot, much like what you are attempting to achieve yourself. So after you set up an appointment with this Federal Aviation Administration appointed doctor, you will see him and he will go over various things, just making sure that your vision is good, you don't have any underlying mental health issues, and you don't have any heart issues that will prevent you from flying. So third-class medical is good for various amounts of time depending on your age. If you are under 40 years of age, your third-class medical is good for 60 calendar months. What a calendar month is the end of the last day of the month that you got your certificate. So if you were to get your medical certificate July 1st, 2015, and you were under 40, that medical certificate would be good till the last day of July in 2020. So 60 calendar months is 5 years. If you are over 40 years of age, that medical certificate is good for 24 calendar months. The reason that it is a little bit shorter is that as we age, our health can degrade faster. The next type of medical certificate that you can attain is a second-class medical. A second-class medical is what you need to exercise the privileges of a commercial pilot. And what we mean by exercising the privileges means that if you hold this certificate, you can eventually get the training to get up to that certificate and use it without any limitations. For example, if you have a commercial pilot certificate but only hold a third-class medical, you can only act as a private pilot and you cannot fly for hire. So if you are under 40 with a second-class medical, that medical certificate is good for 12 calendar months. And the same thing if you are over 40. This is one that just kind of equals out. It is still good for 12 calendar months. The next type of medical certificate, which is the highest grade you can get, is the first-class medical certificate. If you are under 40 years of age, the first-class medical certificate is still good for 12 calendar months. But if you are over the age of 40, that medical certificate is only good for 6 calendar months. The first-class medical is the medical certificate that you need to exercise the privileges of an airline transport pilot. That meaning somebody who flies for the airlines, in essence. The nice thing, if you get a higher class medical, is that after your first class or second class medical expires, it automatically becomes a third class medical. Therefore, if you are under the age of 40 and you got your medical certificate February 1st of 2015, your first class medical will now then expire February 28th of 2016. But not to be alarmed, because after that, your first class medical automatically becomes a third class medical and is good for 4 more years. It is good for the remainder of the time. So in that case, your third class medical, or your first class will become a third class, and third class medical will now be good for 58 calendar months. 58 calendar months is 4 years. So in this case, you have until February 28th of 2020 to get a new medical certificate. Now I will talk a little bit about a simple medical deficiency that is very easy to get around. One thing that can prevent you from flying is if you have color blindness. Now that does not restrict you from flying. There are ways of going about getting a medical certificate even if you are colorblind. What you'll need to do is you'll need to obtain what is called a SOTA. Your aerospace medical examiner will have you contact the FAA for you and help you set this up. What a SOTA is a statement of demonstrated ability. So in the case of color blindness, the FAA will have you go out to an airport with the control tower. They'll have you stand somewhere outside the tower, and they will flash different colored lights at you. They will flash both red, green, and normal light at you. And as long as you can distinguish the difference between those kinds, you will have a medical certificate with no limitations. Now, if you cannot see those colors, yes, you can still fly, but the limitation on your medical certificate will be that you are not allowed to fly during the night. So therefore, you will only fly during the day. This would restrict you from becoming any kind of professional within aviation, allowing you to earn money for flying. The next aeromedical factor that we are going to discuss is something called hypoxia. Hypoxia is simply the reduced amount of oxygen in the blood that can lead to various negative side effects, and ultimately can actually cause you to pass out and eventually die if it gets to that point. The first type of hypoxia that we're going to talk about is stagnant hypoxia. Stagnant hypoxia is hypoxia caused by poor blood flow. Poor blood flow can either just be a medical issue that you do have restricted veins or your heart is not pumping out enough blood, or the more common thing in aviation is gravity-induced loss of consciousness. What that would be is that if you were increasing, if you were pulling back very hard in a climb, you start to become heavier. And when you become heavier, your blood also becomes heavier and it's harder for your body to pump. By that, the blood just kind of sits where it is. It's not actively circulating, and when it just sits where it is, you're not getting more oxygen to all of your parts of your body, primarily your brain being the most important part of your body to get blood. This form of hypoxia is one of the easier ones to get around. You avoid high G-load situations, and you remain fit, so therefore your blood circulates normally. The next type of hypoxia is hystoxic. Hystoxic hypoxia is often caused by alcohol in the blood. When there's alcohol in your bloodstream, it prevents your blood cells from taking on oxygen as efficiently, and therefore can cause various issues within aviation. One of them being your body, if there's any amount of alcohol in your body, you start to increase the amount of intoxication faster, and you can experience hypoxia at a lower altitude than a person who's not under the influence of alcohol can withstand. There's hyphemic. Hyphemic hypoxia is caused by, more commonly, people who smoke cigarettes. And this just is a situation when your lungs are not as efficient, they don't take in the greatest amount of oxygen they can, and this can reduce your night vision by up to 20%. That being very dangerous if you fly at night. The final and simplest form of hypoxia within aviation is hypoxic hypoxia. Hypoxia is caused by an increase in altitude. As you increase altitude, you lose, the pressure of oxygen is decreased, therefore oxygen molecules are not as close together, and your body can't get the greatest amount of oxygen that it usually does down at sea level. And your times of consciousness can vary between what altitude you are at. Down lower where we are, you'll never experience these. Up at about 18,000 feet, you have anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes of consciousness. And the poor side is up at about 40,000 feet. You have about 10 seconds of useful consciousness if you do not acquire supplemental oxygen, that being bottled oxygen. Some of the symptoms of hypoxia are increased breathing rate. Your body is trying to get more air in, more oxygen, and it's not just doing it. A headache. Headaches are another common sign of hypoxia. A lot of the headaches are caused by hystoxic hypoxia, which is not only caused by alcohol, is also caused by carbon monoxide poisoning. And we can get that very commonly in airplanes through various issues that we'll discuss later on. We can get lightheaded or dizzy, tingling or warm sensations, poor coordination, you can start to make bad decisions. Your vision will start to be reduced, it'll start blacking out around the edges, or your vision will just not be as good. Your night vision definitely is not as good. You will start to become sleepy. Obviously, if we're flying, we're starting to get sleepy, it's a pretty advanced sign that we're very hypoxic. One of the easy ways to detect hypoxia is by looking at your fingernails. If your fingernails appear to be blue or purple, it's a sign you're not getting enough oxygen. You should either descend to a lower altitude or start using supplemental oxygen. Like I said, it's just bottled oxygen. And another sign is euphoria, and that is a sign of happiness, much like being intoxicated with alcohol.